Hi, friend. Ashley here. Welcome to the Unlock Your Dream podcast. I'm here to guide you along your journey to unlocking your dreams to achieve the best life that you can imagine possible. From my journey in medicine as a PA and then some in the corporate world, I always still desired a little bit more out of life. It wasn't until I met some people who had seen their dreams realized that it occurred to me that maybe, just maybe, mine could come true too. Come along with me as we get to know some of these friends of mine and hear their stories of unlocking their dreams. Hi, friend. Welcome back this week to the Unlock Your Dream podcast. I'm so excited to introduce you guys to my new friend, Cassidy. She's doing some really incredible things here in Charleston. She has been called a visionary designer and truly is the creative force behind Kindred Label, which is a brand for women by women, which we love to highlight here on the podcast. And with a vision for fashion and a true passion and a business degree from College of Charleston, her entrepreneurial mindset and determination really set the stage for the birth of Kindred Label, which we will certainly dive into. One thing I think that's so great about you, Cassidy, is that she's a self-taught cobbler at the age of 24, which I feel like is something that has really been lost, especially here in the States. So excited to dive in both on Kindred Label and some really exciting things that Cassidy has going on. So with that, I'm just going to dive on in and let you share a little bit of your story. Cassidy, thanks for being here on the Unlock Your Dream podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. So
Yeah.
excited.
So anything that you want to share about your story, I know, so self-taught cobbler at 24, extremely impressive. Where did that love for putting shoes together come from?
So honestly, that came from having the product and needing to solve the problem. It was a very long journey, kind of diving into Kindred. I had the idea when I was at College of Charleston, and it really came from walking around wearing heels. My feet would always hurt. And I personally was the kind of person, I was like, I cannot take my shoes off and walk barefoot. I just would push through the pain. And that was the first pain point. And I was like, there has to be a better way. And so I started Googling. I couldn't really find anything out there that really fit my aesthetic and my fashion and quality that I kind of look for. And so I would, like any entrepreneur, I was like, I'm going to try to make it myself. And so that's kind of where the journey started. And from there, I was, cutting up shoes. I was putting in metal rods. I was trying to show the concept enough where I'm like, okay, I think this could work. And so very like fast forward, a lot kind of went into all that, but the cobbling came from after we went through our whole engineering process. They kind of helped us solidify what the folding mechanism would be and translating that to what a manufactured shoe could be. Was the real challenge. And so when we switched from engineering to manufacturing, kind of connecting those dots, they didn't quite understand. They're like, I see what you've made, but a shoe's never been made like this. This is a really weird thing. We don't split soles. We don't like inlay magnets. And I was like, no, I promise it can be done. It can be done. And so that really started my cobbling journey. It was thousands and thousands of hours on YouTube, learning shoemaking. And so I just started making my own samples and I would kind of go through it, developing with the factory. And that was really the only way to kind of translate the concept. And so I had to learn their language in order to translate it to the engineering language. And so I just started cobbling away in my apartment. This was during COVID. I was up every single night just making shoes.
My gosh, girl, that's incredible. I love, first of all, just the entrepreneur heartbeat and finding a need and filling it because we have
Yeah.
all strutted around with our pride and our shoes and our feet
Yep.
killing us before. And we've all had that like cheap little pair of flip flops that you throw
Yep.
into your bag and you put it on and change when you get there. But the aesthetic is just not there for sure. And
It's
I
not.
feel like yours even fold up to be a little smaller than what a normal flip flop would be. So
Yep.
obviously we'll get for where to find you, but if you guys haven't looked up her shoes, please go take a look. They are the coolest thing. I mean, especially for Charleston with the cobblestone, but you want heels for when you get
Yeah.
there. I can see girls rocking these in New York City. They're
100%.
just the coolest. So obviously you did the business degree. You're sitting at home, which I also love that you touched on YouTube and really like you taught yourself
Oh,
something.
yeah.
So I feel like COVID was a season that really revealed you either like dove in and just kind of coming out of COVID. Obviously, a lot of people didn't take the time to really make themselves better. And it sounds like
Yeah.
you really were like, hey, no, I'm going to learn this. I'm going to learn something cool and really solve this problem. Where did your business degree fit into all this? And what did you think you might be doing with your business degree after leaving College of Charleston?
So honestly, when I picked a business major, it felt kind of safe. Looking back, I probably would have gone to maybe more of like a design school or just done something fun with like textiles design, who knows? But I always knew, like deep down, I was like, I want to be a business owner. I want to create something. I never knew what it was. And luckily, I did have this idea when I was kind of finishing off college. I didn't start it to my senior year, but the idea had kind of been just turning in my head for a couple years in college. So as I was going through the courses, I would kind of always like relate it back to, ooh, how can I, apply this to Kindred? But I will say the most of out of any business I learned was actually doing the business. Like I always felt college was very textbook. You kind of learn it. It's kind of black and white. It kind of erases all the gray areas that actually, belong in the business. And so I learned mostly everything out of college. Um, I think college was incredible for the social skills, the connections, the networking. But the bulk of what I've learned, I feel like I've got like my, master's, PhD, whatever, doing actual business. But to your point, I feel like a lot of people, either took advantage of the kind of downtime of COVID. I was very much someone I was like, if I'm going to be stuck in my home, I'm going to do something to kind of better myself, continue to learn. And I did really take advantage of all of that like downtime essentially. And I was like, okay, let me learn a new skill. Like, let me apply myself this way, that way. And cobbling became my obsession for quite some time.
That is so cool, girl. I'm so inspired. And I agree with you. I hear some people say from the entrepreneur perspective, like, oh, college was such a waste. But I love what you said. Like, the true journey is learning in the business. But
Mhm.
what you gained from college was truly that you're dealing with people no matter what business you go into. So, truly having the people skills, you have the piece of paper that shows that you finished and
Yeah.
you picked up things along the way that were helpful in your journey. And I think just your positive perspective is just so special. So thinking about you during COVID, just in your apartment, how did you get supplies? Was it something that you like ordered and shipped to your apartment, or what did that
Yeah.
look like?
So I went on this whole long like Google spree of like looking at materials, tools, and I actually started by getting on this course. I think it was called like I can make shoes or something, and they sent me this very basic starter box. So that was kind of my introduction to shoemaking, and it had all these little tools. And as I just continued to learn, I would buy more tools, like so many tools. I would buy sole leather. I would buy leather for the uppers and everything I would do by hand. Of course, I had no machinery. So I had to get a little creative with some of the machines. And honestly, there's some stuff I went to like Home Depot and had to buy. Got very, very creative. But our shoes had magnets. So then a lot of that was testing hundreds of magnets, different hinges, but really just kind of doing anything I could from, my house and just doing it that way. But since then, I mean, it's over there, a giant cabinet full of just like tools, leather. Because from there, I was like, well, leather's leather. Let me try to make handbags. And so then I got into making handbags and I just got really obsessed with everything leather.
That is incredible. It's also like super sexy. I'm just imagining you with like all your
Mhm.
cool tools in your apartment.
Yep.
Like it's just so amazing, girl. I'm so inspired. So obviously, you had a need, you filled it with your beautiful sandal. Where did the design start to come into mind? We're like, okay, we can hinge this and I can make magnets. And I mean, I haven't actually seen the prototype in person, but they look incredible.
Here, I can show you right now. I have a little shoe right here. So this is our newest style, the Catherine. And so this is the
Oh,
shoe. So it's completely made out of leather. Just the only rubber is the sole cap, and the uppers are leather as well. And then it just folds up. So our mechanism is this. So it's two magnets and a living hinge, which for us is the elastic. And so then it just pops back. When you're wearing them, you can't even tell they fold. They're super comfortable and just fit and wear like a normal sandal. And that was really honestly the whole goal. I was like, I don't want the shoe to look like it folds. I don't want it to feel like it folds. And I want it to be a shoe that can be worn every day. Kind of in the beginning, it became more of like, let it be an afterthought. You're wearing your heels, you're doing whatever. It needs to just fit with you, be an on the go option. And so, kind of designing it, I designed that that was always in the uh, back of my head. And just going through the whole process and kind of the mechanism and everything, just figuring that out was always, we went through a lot of different mechanisms, I guess. And so it was always, how can we simplify? How can we simplify? Because at the end of the day, sure, you could patent some crazy mechanism, and we found out some people did that. But if you can't manufacture it, it doesn't really work. And so we went through a lot and with the engineering side and kind of taking what was in my brain and putting it into theirs and working through it with them. And we came upon this kind of mechanism that we really liked, and just the way the magnet snapped, it was simple and the hinge was simple. So that's kind of then what we ended up going forward with. We had to make a few adjustments along the way, but thank God we simplified it, because had it been any more complex, I think a factory would have like run the other way.
That is so cool. Yeah, my brain's just like reeling with like even on flights and things where you just need like a little bit
Yep.
of a shoe and you maybe have your carry on, but you want to have heels on when you get there. I mean, it's just incredible, Cassidy. I'm so just incredibly blown away. So you talked about the engineering side to the manufacturing side. Are there any connections or things you've learned along the way from people, your network, that helped to get your business where it is? Obviously, you became this incredible cobbler. This thing was in your mind, but now how do we get it from your mind onto
Yeah.
a woman's foot?
I mean, 100% making connections and networking is everything. Because when I did start this, I knew absolutely nothing about making shoes. That was a foreign concept to me. I was like, who am I to be in this space? I have no long-standing history with shoes. This is obviously my first business. So I felt kind of like an imposter in the space to start with. But from the very, very beginning, we kind of searched out there for different connections of people we could talk to. A lot of that was found on Google. We did have a family friend who was in toy manufacturing and shoes. So he was the very first person we reached out to. I sent him, which is funny, he had like a factory connection. I sent them a shoe. The one I literally made, the very first one, I like cut open just a sandal, put metal rods in it, and sent that to them. That was my first mistake, thinking, they'll kind of adapt it. If you ship something to China, they're going to ship back exactly what you sent them. So that was kind of our first, okay, so that's how manufacturing works. And so as we kept going, it was always like, okay, we know what we know, we're learning along the way, but who can we talk to who knows more than us and can, help point us in the right directions so we can make as little mistakes as we can. Of course, we did make a lot, but we're trying to minimize that. So a lot of the connections, honestly, I found through Google. It was just reaching out to a bunch of different companies. I will say, I think we nailed the engineering company at the right time, because COVID did just, start. And I think a lot of their contracts were on pause, and they were a pretty big company. And we were like, okay, we have this weird concept for a shoe. And they're like, this is really strange. We've never seen this, but this sounds kind of fun. And so we worked with two guys on their team who absolutely just loved the concept. And so they taught us kind of the first little bit about just mechanisms, the engineering, how it needs to work, function, all of that. So that was very cool. And then going into manufacturing, I started to learn about construction, how things are put together. I have a partner that I still work with today who does help me like source factories. She really did teach me a lot about materials and the leathers and honestly the language of the game, which was very, very important. From there, I mean, after we developed the shoe, it was making connections with factories. Even ones we didn't go with, we still talked to, trying to figure out the best way to like diversify our supply chain. And then the new hurdle and the next challenge is learning the marketing side. And we have an incredible marketing team behind us. But for the most part, it's really just me. And so the most important thing has been making connections.
That's incredible. I'm just continuing to be blown away by you, just like your maturity, your insight. And I love, like you said, again, going back to COVID, it was a negative for some people, but you took this opportunity where a lot of contracts pulled away from your engineers and maximized on that and gave them
Yeah.
work that, maybe, again, you're serving people and you're filling a need and you're pouring into these engineers who maybe wouldn't have had anything in 2020 and 2021. That's
Yeah.
just,
And it was just really fun, I think, for them because they're used to working on these really technical, mechanical things. And they're like, this is kind of cool. Like, let's do this. And I was like, I love that you're excited because we're excited. So it was great to have that positive energy coming in, especially
yeah.
during a time of COVID where there was a lot of negatives happening. So it was like that small little bit of like hope and happiness kind of happening, which was great.
I love that. And you seem like someone that probably attracts that. I feel like that's your energy. And so you either attract people who are going to give you that or kind of dispel that negative energy. I love that, girl. Any surprises along the way, twists and turns? I know you shared some with like learning about manufacturing and obviously, I think a lot of times as an entrepreneur, failures actually teaches you a lot more than success does. And so it sounds like you definitely had those moments, but any surprises along the way that helped you get to where you are, whether it was any media that picked you up or kind of wow moments that you're like, man, okay, we're doing this.
Yeah, I will say there was some like pretty big moments. I mean, there were a lot of little moments, but I would say like some of our biggest were, we got that first working prototype and I was like, it works. When we got the first best prototype from our factory and I was like, okay, this is going to happen. And then kind of launching it. And there were so many twists and turns, but I will say I thrive in like the uncertainty. Like that is like my favorite thing when there's kind of like a little fire and I need to put it out. Most people I think would shy away from that. But I think the most creativity and drive is created in those moments. And so I will say, even just after launching, you kind of cross your fingers, you hope people are going to love it. You don't really know, but it's kind of like you're pushing out your baby into the world and you're just hoping for good feedback. But I'll say the first coolest thing that ever happened after launching was we got featured in Elle, and not once, but twice. That was like, that was like the coolest moment. I don't think I stopped smiling the whole day. I was like screaming in my apartment. It was very awesome.
You have to save every single episode of that you can find. That is
Oh yeah.
incredible. Oh,
Oh no, I'm gonna
congratulations.
frame I'm gonna frame these on a wall. Like it was one of the
Yes.
coolest things. And I think while I was building it, you always kind of think about those little moments and you kind of imagine what they'll be like. And then they actually happen. And you're like, oh my God, I just remember sitting, like cobbling, making shoes, being like, this would be so cool if one day it was featured in this magazine or this magazine. And then another moment was when we did our launch party, which was last month. And again, that had been something in my head where I always dreamed up and imagined. I was like, what's it going to feel like when I have, my closest friends, all these people in Charleston all around, celebrating something that I've created. And so that was a really magical moment and kind of like hey, I can take a breath. Like we've done this, like we're here, we've arrived, we're still building. We're always going to be building, but we finally have something to show for all of this, work we've been putting in for the last 4 years. So that was really incredible.
I heard about your magical moment. You're always going to be building. And I know, that's for those of you guys listening, that's how I found Cassidy originally. I had some friends, mutual friends of ours who were at her event. And I was like, what is this magical? That's the best word I can think to describe it. What is going on? And it was. And I think it's so cool how you've talked about visualizing things in your head that now have come into reality. Because I just, as an entrepreneur, it sounds so like woo woo, but it's so true. You can visualize something and kind of speak it into existence. But I
Yeah.
love too that you took the time to pause and really celebrate these wins. It's easy probably to just keep your head down and keep grinding, but you have to pick your head up once in a while, look around and be like, yeah, I did it.
Yeah.
The party was incredible.
Yeah. And I think it's also important too to, like you're saying, pause, take a second, but also like evaluate the journey that you've been on, because that was one of the biggest things. Was I sometimes would forget, oh my gosh, I've done this. And my dad, he's very much about like pause in the moment, take a look around, see what you've accomplished. And his advice was you need to write out all the little things, like the big ones, the little things, but that have gone on over, these last 4 years. And I did that and I had a whole long page of all these things. And I was like, oh my gosh, I forgot about that. And even just both of us reminiscing on it was just a really fun experience to be like, gosh, like you got to pick up your head and you have to appreciate what you've done, but like where you're at and of course where you want to go, and continue to just, think through that and visualize that and like manifest it.
Yeah, that is so cool about your dad. I think save that piece of paper. I feel like on days when it's really hard or you're having maybe a really hard day, it's good to pull that piece of paper out and just be like, yeah, I've had all these little wins along the way too, which is so cool. I
Yeah,
love
and
that.
I'm even weird. So like I have just the longest running to-do list on my phone. And on Apple, you can like kind of, check them off and it just goes to the bottom of the list. I keep every old task because sometimes when I'm just like in a rut, I'm like, I feel like I'm not doing enough. I'll like go scroll down. I'm like, no, but look how much I did. I was like, it's okay. I like to keep everything. Maybe it's a little hoarder of me, but I do like to hold on to like everything because it's fun to look back and, just appreciate the journey.
That is such a good idea. I love that little tidbit. That's awesome. Well, obviously, you're not just an entrepreneur. You have so many other roles in your life right now. How are you balancing like social life, being a friend, being a daughter, all the things that you have on top of being an entrepreneur?
I will say in the beginning, it was a very big challenge balancing that. I kind of dove right in. I was super, super obsessed, still am, but all my time, energy, hours, everything was going into Kindred. I look back and I do appreciate that because that is how we built the shoe. But I learned, I would say within like the last year, year and a half, how important like self care, but balancing, your work and those relationships. And so outside of Kindred, I do make it a big point to spend a lot of time with friends, like foster those relationships. As corny as it sounds, get outside, take a walk. I play tennis with my sister, like I work out with some of my friends, go to the beach, but do things that allow you to step back and kind of ground yourself. And now more than ever, I value my friendships and my relationships so much because they are the people that when you're feeling a little down, maybe you didn't have a great day, something's not going well, like they're the ones that are the first ones to lift you up and just remind you, Cassidy, like, I mean, as corny, Cassidy, you're incredible, you're amazing, like we all love you, we're all here to support you. Always reminding me like what I'm doing is so cool because like anyone, you have a little self-doubt. And they have 100% been my biggest advocates. And so relationships are so important. Sometimes, I mean, you do need to grind it out. You do need to work. You do need to put in the hours, but it is okay to also, that self care, taking care of yourself, going out, seeing your friends, just enjoying life. Like that's important.
Yeah, so good. I agree. It's so important with who you surround yourself with and what they're
Yeah.
speaking into and just being really careful with that. Speaking of that, what's your leadership philosophy with your team and the people that you're around? How do what are people come to you for with leadership at Kindred?
So, because the team, I mean, it's really just me and my dad, who's also my other co founder.
Wow.
And so it's kind of managing ourselves. We are really good about communicating. Um, we're very similar in our how we think, how we talk, all these things. So we're pretty solid in our communication. But I think all of the extensions to Kindred and all of our partners, I mean, again, very big on communication. But I'm also and something I love to do is empower other people. And so it's really empowering them to, take on their roles. Let's take risks. Let's go out. Let's figure it out. We're kind of building it as we go. Nothing for the most part is too fatal. So I love to empower people to kind of take on their own roles, but just also teamwork. Like I'm very big about collaboration, working together. Of course, it's a lot of things I don't know, so I want to learn them, but I'm not never going to like step on toes. So I think really just fostering, a really positive environment where, people want to work together, they want to come together and all voices are heard.
That's so good. Yeah, I can totally see that about you, even just in the little bit of time that I've gotten to know you. That's incredible. That's really cool to work with your dad too. That's a really special
I love that.
relationship. Where did the name Kindred come from?
So I went through so many names. I mean, crazy names. The funniest is our very first name. It was kind of a joke, but it was going to be Tipsy Toes. Because I mean, it started as like a little shoe to like go out with, and I was like, we're not going to do that. But Kindred came from, we were kind of in the building process. We really needed a name, and nothing was really sticking and registering with me. So I did the old-fashioned way. I opened up a ton of different design books, fashion books. I have like tons of coffee table books, and I just started going through the pages. And I was looking around, trying to find something that inspired me. And on the back of a bookshelf in a photo, I saw Kindred Soul. And I was like, oh my gosh, I kind of love that. And so at first it was called Kindred Soul, and we did it SOLES, whatever. And I thought that was great. And then I was like, let's drop soul and let's do label so that we can encompass more things outside of shoes down the road. But I loved Kindred because I felt like all women are kindred in different ways. And shoes is just such a small part of that. And footwear and whatever, but I loved that women are kind of one. We all go through these things together. And so if there's one small thing I could do to like help empower women and lift them up, even if it's just their footwear, I was like, we are all kindred.
I love that, girl. Yeah, not even just their footwear. I love that. I mean, it's something we've all bonded around. We've all
Yeah.
shot from shoes. We've all been in that hill moment of like, man, I wish I had something else to put on. That is just
Yep.
the most. Oh, that's so incredible. Anything that you would share with somebody that maybe wants to start something, has an idea, wants to dive into something, and they're just like, gosh, I'm just a little afraid, or I doubt that I could even do it.
I would say you're gonna have a million doubts along the road. But my biggest advice is just do it. Just start small, making small little goals. Whether you have an idea for a concept, like I don't know, just start researching, see what's out there, and just again take little bites and just continue to grind it out and just figure it out. If you feel like there's a problem that needs to be solved, solve it. You know, you're going to be your biggest advocate for what you believe in the product you build or service, whatever that is. So just start. I'd say another thing which was really big for us is pivoting. So kind of knowing you have maybe hit a roadblock, and instead of sitting there being like, what do I do now? Just move. Just, go around it, come up with a plan B. We always had a plan A, B, C, D, E. And, sometimes we did have to go down the line and use the others. But pivoting is really important. Don't waste too much time dwelling on, the no's. We got so many no's. And for me, that kind of always empowered me and it excited me. And so every no we got, I was like, I'm going to turn this into a yes. You're not going to say no to me. And so I think embracing the challenges, embracing the no's, and kind of using it as energy to kind of propel you into like the next phase of what you're doing.
Wow, so powerful. Everybody just go back and re-listen to that whole little clip. That was incredible. Oh my gosh, girl. Well, where can people find you? I know we're coming down on time and I certainly want people to be able to get as many different colorways and sizes and
Yes.
all the things that they need. So where can we find you and get ourselves a pair of three?
So you can find us online at kindredlabel.com. We also have our Instagram, which the label or the handle is Kindred Label. Of course, we post everything on there, but all of our products are sold on our website. And we are just direct to consumer. So we'll, of course, just ship them to you.
Awesome. Do you have a favorite pair or colorway that you really love?
So, I mean, of course, I love all of them. But the one I've been finding myself wearing the most is our newest style, the Catherine, in white. And so it has brown sole. It's very chic. It's great at, matching with if you're dressed down or in like a sundress. And so I found it's a great way to be comfortable but elevate my wardrobe. If I'm not wearing that one, I'm normally wearing our Hannah, which is a thicker thong, and our silver. Because I just think it's so fun. And it's like a fun little pop of color. It kind of makes every like outfit a little more like spunky. And so those two are my go-tos, but I mean, I do find myself wearing all of them.
I love that. Did Hannah and Catherine, where did they come from? Are they friends or family members or?
So the Hannah doesn't have too much significance. It was kind of just a name we thought of in the beginning. I always loved the
Yeah.
name Hannah, but the Catherine we did name after my mom.
Oh,
She's fabulous, timeless, and so chic, which is exactly what the shoe is. So named it after her to honor her.
I love this family business. It's awesome. Well, Cassidy, it's been such a gift to get to know you, and I cannot wait to share this just across Charleston and beyond. Is there anything else that you wanted to share that we didn't get to today?
I don't think so. I feel like we kind of covered a lot. Not anything that comes to mind, I don't think.
Awesome. 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 Well, again, thank you so much. I'm so excited to hop on and grab a couple pairs and start to rock them myself
Yes.
around Charleston. It's just such a special design and just love supporting local entrepreneurs. So, again, just thank
Yeah.
you so much for your time. It's been so fun to get to know you, and I'm so excited to share this with our audience.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. It's good.
Okay, friend, that's it for this week. Thank you so much for spending time with me. Feel free to share this podcast with another friend who it may inspire. Leave a review to possibly be featured at the beginning of another episode, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the stories that could help unlock your dream for you.